The sea near the old docks did not look friendly anymore. It was not the bright blue water tourists imagined. Here, the water was deep green and sometimes almost black, depending on the clouds. The waves were not loud, but they never stopped. They tapped the wooden posts again and again, like time knocking on a door that would never open. At the far end of the harbor, away from the busy fishing boats and the loud repair shops, a giant cargo ship rested like a forgotten monster. It was tied to a broken dock where the boards bent under a person's weight. The ship was huge, but it looked weak in a sad way. Rust covered its sides like old skin. The paint had cracked and peeled for years. The ship's name was still written on the front, but the letters were faded and scratched. Most people could not even read it. People in the town called it many things. Some called it the rusted giant. Some called it the bad luck ship. Most simply called it that junk. No one went near it unless they had to. Workers used that side of the harbor only when they were lost or when their boat engine failed and they needed a quiet spot to fix it. Kids sometimes dared each other to touch the ship's rope and run away fast. Even the seagulls looked careful when they landed on its rails. The ship was silent, but it still felt heavy, like it carried something dark from the past. The story of the ship was old. Long ago, it had arrived in this town with a full crew and a proud captain. It had carried large containers from distant countries. It brought goods that made businesses rich. It helped the harbor grow. But something happened. People never agreed on the exact reason. Some said there was a legal fight between companies. Some said the ship had been used for secret deals. Others said the owners just ran out of money and left it behind. Whatever the truth was, the result was simple. The ship was abandoned. Years passed. Rain fell on its metal body. Salt air ate away at its paint. Rust grew like a disease. The dock around it broke little by little. The town moved on, and the ship stayed behind, watching everything with empty windows and silent decks. But one man kept looking at it. His name was Ramesh. Ramesh was a poor father who lived in a small rented room not far from the harbor. The room had one narrow window and walls with old stains that never fully went away. The ceiling fan made a tired sound when it turned, like it was also working too hard. The place was not comfortable, but it was clean because Ramesh cared about small things. Ramesh had a son named Ayan. Ayan was 9 years old, thin but energetic, with curious eyes that always searched for answers. He asked many questions about boats, machines, and the sea. He liked to watch mechanics work, even when they told him to move away. He listened carefully, then tried to copy what he saw with small tools made from broken toys. Ramesh worked long hours. In the early morning, he cleaned offices near the market. In the afternoon, he helped at a small workshop that repaired engines for fishing boats. At night, he sometimes did extra work unloading supplies if someone needed help. He did not complain much. He had learned that complaining did not change anything. Work did. Even with all his effort, money was always tight. There were weeks when he counted coins before buying food. There were days when he skipped his own meal so Ayan could eat well. Still, Ramesh tried to keep his face calm. He did not want his son to feel fear all the time. Every evening, after the workshop closed, Ramesh walked home through the harbor path. The path was noisy closer to the center, with engines roaring and men calling out to each other. But as he moved toward the old docks, the noise faded. The air became quieter. The smell of oil and fish became mixed with wet wood and cold salt. And then, he would see the ship. Most people looked at it once and turned away. Ramesh looked longer. He studied the lines of the ship. He watched how it rested in the water. He noticed which parts were heavily rusted and which parts still seemed strong. He noticed the ropes, the anchors, the shape of the containers on the deck, and the old crane that stood frozen like a tired arm. Ramesh used to work on ships when he was younger. Not big ships like this, but smaller cargo boats and old fishing vessels. He understood metal. He understood engines. He understood that things could look dead and still have life inside. He also understood something else. People often gave up too early. One day, Ramesh stopped at a tea stall near the docks. The stall was simple, just a cart with a kettle, small cups, and a little bench. A few men were talking loudly, laughing between sips. Ramesh heard the ship being mentioned. Harbor office is tired of it, one man said. They want someone to take it. Take it for what? Another man laughed. For free and still too expensive. I heard it will be offered for nothing, a third man added. But whoever takes it must handle the papers, taxes, and the mess. No one is stupid enough. They laughed again, as if the idea itself was a joke. Ramesh did not laugh. He bought tea and listened quietly, his eyes on the far dock where the ship stood. The next morning, a notice appeared on a board outside the harbor office. Ramesh saw it while walking past on his way to work. The notice was short and simple. It said the cargo ship could be transferred to a new owner. No sale price. The new owner would take full responsibility. All legal steps would be required. The ship would be removed from the harbor list if someone accepted it. Several people read the notice. Some shook their heads and walked away. A few smirked. One man said it must be a trick. Ramesh stood there longer than the rest. His mind started working like a machine. He knew the risk. He knew the ship could be a bottomless hole of repairs and problems. He knew the paperwork could be heavy. He knew the town would laugh at him. But he also knew something that others did not. He knew how to look beyond the surface. That evening, Ramesh returned home and found Iron sitting on the floor, building a small boat from cardboard. The cardboard was old and weak, but Iron's hands were careful. He used a bit of glue and small pieces of tape. His boat was not perfect, but it looked determined, like it wanted to float even if it had holes. Ramesh sat beside him. Iron, Ramesh said in a calm voice. Have you seen the big cargo ship at the old dock? Iron's eyes lit up. Yes. The one everyone is scared of. Why do you think they are scared? Ramesh asked. Iron thought for a moment. Because it looks broken. And people say it brings bad luck. Ramesh nodded. And what do you think? Iron looked down at his cardboard boat. Broken things can be fixed. Sometimes people just do not try. Ramesh smiled slightly. He did not smile often, but when he did, it felt real. Ramesh took a deep breath. What if I told you that ship is being offered for free? Iron blinked. Free? Like no money? Yes, Ramesh said. No price. But it is not really free. It needs work. A lot of work. And the responsibility would be ours. Iron's face stayed serious. Would we live on it? I do not know, Ramesh answered honestly. Maybe not at first. But it could become something. Or it could become nothing. It is a big risk. Iron looked at the cardboard boat in his hands and then at his father. Are you thinking about taking it? Ramesh did not answer quickly. He looked at the wall, then at the small window where the night air pushed gently through. I am thinking, he said. Because sometimes life does not give chances to people like us. And when it does, the chance looks ugly. It looks like rust. It looks like something everyone else throws away. Iron leaned closer. Do you think the ship has something good inside? Ramesh paused. He did not want to fill his son's head with dreams that could break. But he also did not want to teach him fear. I think, Ramesh said slowly, that the ship has value. Maybe not the kind people see quickly, but value is there. That night, Ramesh could not sleep. He lay on his thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. The fan turned slowly and made the same tired sound. Iron slept beside him, holding his cardboard boat as if it was treasure. Ramesh's mind kept returning to the ship. He thought about the metal body. He thought about the engine room. He thought about the cargo holds. He thought about how ships were built with strength for storms. He thought about how many people gave up just because rust looked scary. He also thought about their life. About the small room. About the bills. About Iron's future. Ramesh did not want his son to grow up believing he could only survive, never build. In the early morning, before the sun fully rose, Ramesh stood up quietly. He washed his face, put on his simple shirt, and walked toward the harbor office. The streets were calm. The air was cold. The sea smell was stronger at this hour. When he reached the office, the door was still closed. He waited outside until the clerk arrived. The clerk was an older man named Kumar. He looked surprised when he saw Ramesh. "You are early," Kumar said, unlocking the door. "I need to ask about the ship," Ramesh replied. Kumar's eyebrows lifted. "The rusted cargo ship?" "Yes," Ramesh said. Kumar stepped inside and turned on the light. "Many people ask out of curiosity. Then they leave." "I am not here for curiosity," Ramesh said quietly. Kumar stared at him for a moment, then sighed. "Sit down." Ramesh sat at the small desk across from him. Kumar pulled out papers. He explained the rules. He explained the responsibilities. He explained the fees that could still come later. He explained that the ship was in poor condition. He explained that the dock area could become dangerous. He warned Ramesh more than once. Ramesh listened without interrupting. When Kumar finished, he leaned back and said, "After all this, do you still want it?" Ramesh looked at the papers on the desk. Then he looked up. "Yes," he said. Kumar blinked. "You understand what you are doing?" Ramesh nodded. "I understand the risk. But I also understand that doing nothing is also a risk." Kumar did not reply for a few seconds. Then he slid the papers forward. "Sign here. And here." Ramesh picked up the pen. His hand did not shake. He signed. Outside, the morning sun started to climb slowly, lighting the harbor with soft gold. The town was waking up. Boats were leaving. Workers were shouting. The sea was moving like it always did. But for Ramesh, something had changed. The poor dad had just become the owner of the rusted cargo ship no one wanted. And he did not know it yet, but the ship was not only a ship. It was a door. A door that had been locked for years, waiting for someone brave enough to turn the handle. The morning after Ramesh signed the papers, the rusted cargo ship no longer felt like a distant object. It felt close. It felt heavy. It felt real. The sea moved the same way it always had, but in Ramesh's heart, something had shifted. He was no longer just a worker walking past an old ship. He was responsible for it. Ramesh reached the old dock early. The wooden boards creaked under his feet. Some parts felt weak, and he tested each step carefully. The ship stood in front of him, tall and silent. Rust covered its sides, but the shape was strong. The ship had not bent or collapsed. It had endured. Ramesh climbed aboard using a narrow ladder. His hands touched cold metal. The deck smelled of salt, oil, and age. Every step echoed across the empty space. The ship felt alive in a quiet way, like it was watching him. He stood still for a moment. Many people had stood here before him, but none had stayed. Ramesh promised himself that he would not walk away easily. He began with cleaning. Ramesh brought simple tools from home. A brush, a cloth, a small hammer, and oil. He scraped rust from handrails. He cleared dirt from walkways. He opened doors that had not moved in years. Some resisted. Some opened with loud sounds, like they were waking from a long sleep. The inside of the ship was darker than he expected. Narrow hallways ran deep into its body. Pipes crossed the ceiling. Old lights hung without power. The air felt trapped, like it had been waiting for fresh breath. Ramesh moved slowly and carefully. He checked the floor before stepping. He tested doors before opening them fully. He treated the ship with respect, not fear. By afternoon, sweat covered his face and clothes. His hands were black with dirt and rust. But his eyes were bright. He was not tired in his heart. Ian came after school. The boy stood at the edge of the dock, staring at the ship with wide eyes. "It looks bigger up close," he said. Ramesh smiled. "It is big. Bigger than it looks." Ian climbed aboard carefully, copying his father's steps. He touched the metal walls and listened to the echoes of his own voice. "Can I help?" Ian asked. "You can," Ramesh replied. "But you must be careful." Ian nodded seriously. Ramesh gave him small tasks. Holding tools. Cleaning dust from corners. Watching while Ramesh checked doors and bolts. Ian did not complain. He worked quietly, proud to be trusted. Some people passed by and stared. A few shook their heads. A few whispered. One man laughed loudly and said Ramesh was building a home for ghosts. Ramesh ignored them. He had learned long ago that noise did not deserve attention. Day after day, Ramesh returned to the ship. He learned its patterns. Which doors stuck? Which stairs were safe? Which areas needed light? He fixed small things first. He cleaned windows. He oiled hinges. He replaced broken handles with parts from old boats. At night, he studied old ship manuals borrowed from the workshop. He remembered lessons from his younger days. He planned each step carefully because mistakes could cost time and safety. Slowly, the ship began to change. Not in a way that impressed others, but in a way that mattered. The deck became safer. The hallways became cleaner. The air felt lighter. One afternoon, while working near the engine room, Ramesh noticed something strange. One wall sounded different. When he tapped it with his tool, the sound was hollow. Not weak. Just empty in a way that did not match the rest of the ship. Ramesh stopped working and tapped again. The sound stayed the same. He leaned closer. The metal plate looked clean compared to the surrounding area. No deep rust. No damage. The bolts were tight and carefully placed. This was not a repair patch. This was intentional. Ramesh felt a slow pressure in his chest. Not fear. Curiosity. He did not rush. He marked the spot quietly and continued his work as usual. He did not want attention. Ships carried stories, and stories needed patience. That evening, after Iron went home, Ramesh stayed longer. The harbor grew quiet. The sun dropped behind buildings. The sea turned dark, reflecting small lights from far away. Ramesh returned to the engine room with a flashlight. He studied the wall carefully. The metal panel had a hidden seam. It was thin but precise. He searched for a latch or a handle but found none. Whoever closed it had wanted it hidden, not sealed forever. Ramesh worked slowly, using gentle force. After some time, the panel shifted slightly. Dust fell. The sound echoed softly through the engine room. Behind the panel was a narrow passage. Ramesh stepped back, breathing slowly. The passage was tall enough to stand in but narrow. The air inside was dry and still. His light revealed crates stacked neatly against the walls. They were not broken or damaged. They were sealed tightly, wrapped carefully. This was not random storage. This was planned. Ramesh stepped inside and examined one crate. It was heavy. Strong locks held it closed. Markings were printed on the side, faded but clear. These were not normal shipping signs. They looked official, yet unfamiliar. Ramesh did not open anything. He had learned something important in life. When you find something unexpected, you must understand it before touching it. He closed the panel carefully and left the engine room exactly as he found it. That night, Ramesh said nothing to Iron. He watched his son eat dinner and talk about school. He listened and smiled, but his mind stayed focused. Questions filled his thoughts. Why hide crates inside a ship? Why protect them so carefully? Why leave them behind? Ramesh slept very little. The next day, he returned to the ship early. He worked in visible areas. He greeted people politely. He acted normal. But inside, his attention stayed on the hidden space. During the following days, Ramesh quietly researched. He visited old workers. He asked careful questions about the ship's past. He listened more than he spoke. Some men remembered small details. The ship had changed routes suddenly years ago. The crew had been replaced more than once. Paperwork had been delayed. Inspectors had come and gone. No one knew the full story. But pieces began to connect. Ramesh understood that the ship had once carried special cargo. Not illegal, but sensitive. The kind of cargo that needed silence and patience. One evening, Ramesh returned to the hidden space. This time, he opened one crate. Inside were sealed folders wrapped in protective layers. He opened one carefully. Documents. Maps. Records. Names of companies and storage zones. Legal stamps. Signatures. Everything was organized. Ramesh's hands trembled slightly, but his mind stayed calm. He did not understand every detail, but he understood enough. This cargo was not lost. It was hidden. And time had increased its value. Ramesh closed the crate and sealed it again. He locked the panel carefully. He knew this discovery could change everything. But he also knew danger came from acting too fast. He needed guidance. Ramesh decided to seek help from someone outside the town. Someone who understood law and ownership. Someone who would not talk too much. Before leaving, he looked at the ship once more. It no longer looked like junk. It looked like a guardian. Ian waited at home when Ramesh returned late that night. "Did you find anything new?" the boy asked. Ramesh paused. "I found proof," he said gently, "that sometimes people leave behind things more valuable than they realize." Ian smiled. "I knew it." Ramesh placed his hand on his son's head. "Remember this. Quiet work brings loud results." Outside, the sea moved calmly. Inside the ship, a secret slept. And the world had no idea what was about to wake up. Ramesh knew that the secret inside the ship could change his life, but only if he handled it the right way. He did not feel excited like people in stories. He felt careful. Experience had taught him that sudden success could be dangerous if rushed. Early one morning, Ramesh locked the ship and walked toward the bus station. He carried a small bag with copies of the documents he had found. The original papers stayed hidden inside the ship. He trusted no one with those yet. The bus ride to the city took several hours. Ramesh sat quietly near the window, watching the road pass by. Fields turned into buildings. Small shops turned into tall offices. The city looked busy and powerful, very different from the quiet harbor. Ramesh had chosen this city because no one knew him here. He visited a legal office recommended by an old mechanic friend. The office was simple but clean. The man inside was named Mr. Verma. He was calm, careful, and did not talk too much. Ramesh explained everything slowly. He showed the copies of the documents. He did not exaggerate. He did not make big claims. He only spoke the truth. Mr. Verma read in silence. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. Ramesh waited without moving. Finally, Mr. Verma looked up. His face had changed. The calm expression was now serious. "These documents are real," he said. "And they are very important." Ramesh asked one simple question. "What do they mean?" Mr. Verma leaned back. "They prove ownership of valuable cargo stored legally in international storage zones. This cargo was never claimed. Over time, its value has grown." "How much value?" Ramesh asked. Mr. Verma paused before answering. "Close to 200 million. Ramesh did not react. He had expected something big. But numbers like this felt unreal. He simply nodded and asked, "What should I do next?" Mr. Verma respected that question. He explained the process step by step. Verification. Legal confirmation. International communication. Everything would take time. Nothing would be fast. Ramesh agreed to proceed carefully. Weeks passed. During this time, Ramesh continued working on the ship like nothing had changed. He cleaned. He repaired. He improved safety. He hired 2 workers from the harbor and paid them fairly. People noticed. Whispers began. Some said Ramesh was lucky. Some said he was stubborn. Some still laughed. Ian noticed the changes first. More tools arrived. Better equipment. New lights on the ship. Stronger locks. His father looked tired, but confident. "Something good is happening," Ian said one evening. Ramesh smiled. "Yes. But remember, good things take patience." Soon, officials arrived at the harbor. They checked papers. They inspected the ship. They asked questions. Ramesh answered calmly. He showed legal ownership. He followed every rule. The town began to talk openly now. The same people who ignored Ramesh before now greeted him politely. Some asked questions. Some offered help. Ramesh stayed respectful but distant. When the final confirmation came, it was official. The cargo belonged to Ramesh. The value was confirmed. 200 million. News spread fast. Reporters came to the harbor. Cameras pointed at the rusted ship that now had fresh paint in some areas. People gathered. Some were shocked. Some were silent. Ramesh stood near the ship with Iron beside him. He did not raise his voice. He did not boast. He simply answered questions honestly. Yes, I bought the ship. Yes, I worked on it myself. No, I did not know everything from the start. But I believed it had value. Money began to arrive slowly, handled by professionals. Ramesh followed advice but made his own decisions. The first thing he did was clear all debts. Then he repaired the ship fully. The rusted cargo ship was rebuilt into a strong working vessel. It received safety approval. It returned to the sea, not as junk, but as a proud ship once again. Ramesh renamed it. He called it Second Chance. The name spread across the harbor. With his new wealth, Ramesh did not leave the town. He did not forget where he came from. He built a training center near the docks. Young workers learned skills for ship repair and maintenance. Jobs were created. Families found stability. He repaired the old dock instead of removing it. He funded a small school program where children learned practical skills along with regular studies. Iron attended proudly, learning beside others. Ramesh moved into a better house, but it was still simple. Clean rooms. Open windows. No unnecessary luxury. People noticed something important. Ramesh had money, but money did not change him. One evening, Ramesh and Iron stood near the harbor, watching the ship sail slowly into the water. It looks strong now, Iron said. It always was, Ramesh replied. It just needed someone to believe in it. Iron nodded. Like people. Yes, Ramesh said. Like people. The town changed its attitude. The rusted ship that once brought jokes now brought respect. And the poor dad who took a risk became a reminder. Not everything valuable shines at first. Sometimes, the greatest treasures hide behind rust, silence, and patience. And all it takes is one person willing to look closer.